Okay, what's up, folks? It is May the 1st. May Fool's Day. May Fool's Day. Yeah, why not? Why not? All right, so anyway, today what I'm gonna do is, again, so I'm kind of getting back into my coding. I'm getting back in the routine. Man, there's so much with programming. There's so much with coding with the EasyLanguage TradeStation that, you know, even if you go through it all, to go back and use bits and pieces, you kind of almost need refreshers. So what I'm doing is I'm going into the TradeStation forums, finding people that may need some help or assistance or that kind of thing, and then just kind of writing out the code, writing out the script that they may need. It could help somebody else, and it'll help me just because it'll put me back through my paces. And actually, this one that I'm about to do now, I think typically my fashion has been that I'll come on and I'll do a live and I'll just kind of work through it. It'll take me 2 hours to get through it and it'll be this long thing. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and go through it. I'm going to do the 2 hours on my own, which I did. And then I'm going to come on here and I'm going to do it fairly quickly. And that way you guys get more of a concise version, something that you can sink your teeth into. Yeah, you don't have to hang out, wait for 2 hours to see me struggle. And I get to struggle through the first one, and then I actually did it a second time, and now this will be my third iteration. So again, perfect practice makes perfect. Makes practice perfect. Yeah. All right. So anyway, what we're going to do today? Today we're going to draw trend lines and then find when a price crosses it, plot the level, or we'll plot something. All right, so in order to do this, we're going to use the namespace. We need to draw an object. So to draw the trend lines, we're going to use an object trend line. So the namespace is EasyLanguage System, of course. Then we're going to using el system dot drawing, and then we're going to use el system dot drawing objects. All this is needed to draw our trend line. So variable is going to be TL for trend line. So trend line is the class, TL is the variable, null is what we're going to start it off at. I do know that we need to count we need two more variables. So one, we're going to count the trends. We're going to count the trend line. So count TL, 0. And then we're also going to, we need to find what the span is, the span between the trend lines. So the span, that'll be 0. Okay. All right. So for a trend line, you need to initialize it, right? You need to have a initial creation of it. So once, well, I'm going to do it one time on the chart. We're going to do once. We're going to do TL equals trend new trend line. Okay. And then, so now what we're going to do to find the trend lines, and I'm just going to use pretty much the swing high condition that the poster had, which is essentially if it was something like this. So essentially we want to have 10 bars on one side of a high, right? 10 bars on one side of a high. So if we have 10 bars on this side, right? And then we have a high, and then we have one lower bar. Okay? So it's going to look like this. If the highest high of 10 bars is equal to the high of a bar ago, right? Because we're on this bar here. This is the bar that we expect to get our entry signal on. So this high is lower than this high, right? So that high ago, that 1 bar ago high, this one, is the highest of the last 10. Okay, so if the highest high of 10 bars equals the high of a bar ago and the high of a bar ago is greater than the current high, then we're going to begin. So you could plot something if you want to. You could plot one. You could say the high, we'll make it blue. And then also you want to do count plus equal 1. So now you're counting how many highs that you have, or how many swing highs that you have. So count plus equal 1, and then also from here, span is going to be equal to 1. Okay, so now we're starting the span. We're starting to count the span. Okay, and then end. And now if span is greater than or equal to 1, if it's 0, we're not doing anything with it. But if it's greater than or equal to 1, then span plus equal 1, which just means that you're taking whatever the value was of span and you're adding 1 to it. And then when you get to the next bar or the next tick, you're taking the value in span and you're adding 1 to it. While I'm at it, let me go ahead and make this properties a non-intra tick kind of a thing. Okay. All right, so span is equal, greater than or equal to 1, then span plus equal to 1. Okay, so now we found one swing high. That was a count. Now if we find the next swing high, then our count should be 1 greater, right? Because we're adding 1 every time we get a new count. Okay, so now is when we're going to draw our trend line. So if count is greater than or equal to 1, or greater than or equal to 2, because we need at least 2 points to make a line. So if it's count is greater than or equal to 2, and count count is different from count, and we did count TL. And count TL is different from count TL of a bar ago, which just means that when we find this new condition here, this count TL is going to be 1 greater than this count TL. Okay. Now, if we go from this bar to this bar, and there was no new swing high, the condition was not met. Count TL is the same here that it is here. So if that's the same, then we're not doing anything. So here it's different. It's 1 greater, right? Or I mean, we could say that instead of being different, we could just say count TL is greater than count TL 1 bar ago, and we want our trend line to go down from top to bottom. So we need to say that the price level here, or the high here, is greater than the high at the next iteration. So we'd say, let's see, and high of how many bars ago? Well, span, because when we got to a new condition, we restarted span. We started at 1, and then when we get to this, the conditions met again, we started back over at 1. But remember, on the bar that we started back over at 1, we can't use span there. We have to use span of the bar just prior to that. Because, so say we have this bar here, and then say this is the next iteration. Well, the span between the two is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now, this, you would think it'd be 14, but span starts back over at 1 here. So we can't use this. We got to use the one before it, 13. Now, if we want it to be the number 14, then we could say span the bar ago plus 1, right? We could do that, but I don't think we need to do that. So high of span ago, and high of span ago is greater than the high of 1 bar ago. Because remember, our criteria, our high is here, but we're finding that we can't define this high until we get here. And if you have trouble wrapping your head around that, shoot me a message or something like that, and I'll break it down into a graphic or something to help you understand. But high of a bar go. Okay, then begin. All right, so if all those things are true, then begin. We'll go ahead and draw our trend line. So TL is equal to trendline.create. We need 2 data points. If you push down there, you can see that we need a start point and an end point. So we can use a BN point, bar number point, or we can use a DT point, date time point, or we can use a there's another one. I think you can use an XY point. All right, but we're just going to use the bar number point dot create, and we need a bar number and a price. So we're going to use the bar number, and because we're using bar number, and if you don't understand this part, shoot me a message and I'll do another video about this. But you have to add the max bars back. So when your chart starts plotting, when you look at the chart, you see bar 1, you see bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? But if your studies or your indicators requires at least 3 bars to do their work, then this isn't bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is bar 1, 2. So some studies require that you actually reference the entirety of the bars. And when they do, you have to say, okay, well, if this was bar 1, then we have to use this max bars back setting, whatever that number is. It's 3 here. Sometimes it's 200 if you're using the 200 moving average. But you have to use the bar number plus the max bars back. And then you got to subtract 1. -1. All right, but so since our first point is going to be this many bars back, span bars ago, we need to also subtract span of a bar ago. Remember, not current span, because current span is 1. Span of a bar ago. All right, so span of a bar ago, and then our price is going to be the high of what? Span of a bar ago. Okay. I know this looks weird with all those square brackets, but this works. All right, so bm point dot create again for our second point is going to be the current bar, well, a bar prior to the current bar that we're at. So it'll be same thing, bar number plus max bars back -1, but to get to that prior bar, we have to do another -1. Okay, and then it's going to be the high of that 1 bar ago. I'm going to close that, hit that, and then end. Oh, but now that we have added this trend line, now we need to add it to the drawing collection. Drawing objects dot add TL. Okay, and then hit verify. No errors. That's how you know that I've done this 2 or 3 times, because no errors, that's crazy. That's good. All right, let's see if we have any errors on the chart. I don't see my trend lines. I hope that's not what we call in our trend lines. All right, let's see. Trend line, we got our first point. Minus span of a bar go high. High of span of a bar go. Okay, and then bar number, create bar number plus max bars back, -1, minus another 1, and then high of 1 bar go. Okay, so all that looks right. Maybe this isn't right. Well, first, what's going on with the style? This should be a line anyway. Actually, oh, here we're plotting that blue. So that's just telling us where we have the new conditions. So let's just make that a point. Okay, all these are not valid though, right? There's not this many points that are valid. Well, maybe. Okay. All right, so let's see. Once TL equals new trend line, highest of high, and then we have a lower high. Highest high of 10 equals high of a bargo, and the high of a bargo is greater than high. Then plot 1, count TL plus equals 1. Okay, span equals 1, and then if span I think I remember going through this, and I remember having an issue. If span is greater than or equal to 1, then span plus equal 1. I think that needed to come after. If span is greater than or equal to 1, then span. Yeah, I feel like this comes after. Actually, the way that I have this written, it shouldn't matter. Okay, drawing objects.add.tl. All right, so I'm not seeing my trend line show up at all. So drawing objects.add.tl. Let me zoom out. All right, let me do this. Let me add the extension to the right. So TL dot extend right. Extend right equals true. All right. Let's see. Do we have it on here still? This is trend lines 0514. Okay, that's right. All right. All right, hang tight. Okay, I am back. All right, let's see. So if count TL is greater than or equal to 2, and count TL is greater than count of TL a bargo, and high of span this should be just like I've been telling you. It's got to be span of a bargo, span of a bargo. This needs to be span of a bargo. High of span of a bargo. There we go. There we go. Now we got a lot of trend lines. Yeah. Yeah, we got a lot of trend lines. All right, so, and this was my problem. You know, it's not a bad problem to have a bunch of trend lines. That's fine. But I wanted to take what the original poster had, and I want to take a step further. I want to say I don't want this many trend lines. So how can we get rid of this many trend lines? And this is something I had to go to the TradeStation forums and reach out to the senior programmer, get his advice on this. So essentially what you need to do is just look for the count of the drawing objects. Now, I spent about 3 hours trying to figure this out myself, and then I finally went to request help. And it was just like that. But turns out I had actually figured it out myself. I just had I had a misnomer. I put one word. I put rectangle instead of trend line. So I had figured it out. I just hadn't figured it out. All right. So you have to look at all the drawing objects, because again, these trend lines are put into this vector. This vector is a drawing objects vector. Okay, so you can check the vector. You can check the count of how many is in the vector. So you can say if drawing objects dot drawing objects dot items, and then you have to do an enumeration, which is pretty much a filter that says, what are you looking for? Are you looking for rectangles, ellipses, triangles, trend lines, whatever? And there's no triangles, but what are you looking for? It turns out if you make a trend line with the drawing objects function, it's enumeration 3. All you gotta do is right click on here, left click on definition, and it'll tell you object category, these enumerations here, right? So, and actually it's 2. Trend line created by an object is 2. All right, so we go back here, we'll put 2 in here, and just like when you're working with a vector, you need to say the count, okay? So if drawing objects dot item items of enumeration 2, which is drawing objects, trend line dot count, if the count is greater than say 10, then drawing objects dot what? You see it on there? Yeah, delete. Delete what? You got to have the drawing object value. Okay, so it's going to be drawing object dot what was it? No, it's still drawing objects dot items enumeration 2 dot at, and you want to delete the first one, and then close that up, and hit that, and then hit that. All right, it didn't like the drawing objects. Let's see, can I go? Oh, and this is what I did at first. So I don't know if, hopefully I can remember this, but when you delete the drawing objects, and a lot of times, so when you're pulling stuff out of, when you're putting stuff in vectors, I think you can put it in a vector as type, ASTYPE, but when you're pulling it out of a vector, I believe for the most part you have to say what it is also. I don't know if that works, if that's like that all the time or not, but I know when I'm doing a lot with the dictionary and when I'm working with the vector, when you pull it out, when you pull in the element out of an index from the vector, you have to say as type. As type what? Are you pulling it out as an integer? Are you pulling it out as a string? How are you pulling it out? And I think you can only pull it out. It's 8 o'clock, so the 8 o'clock trading bell. I think you can only pull it out as what you put it in as, which is a little unusual. Maybe, I don't know, but anyway. So trend line. Okay. So if drawing objects.count is greater than 10, then we want to delete the first. Is it the first one or the last one? I thought it was the first one. I think it's the first one. Not sure why I have so many trend lines up here still. And that's way more than 10. I mean, dude, come on. If drawing objects.items, you know what? And I remember when I was working with this before, it's 3. I mean, 3 worked. Now I'm going to have to go back and look and see why 3 is working and not 2. But watch, when I put 3, you see now I've only got, what, 3 trend lines, right? 1, 2, or, yeah, 1, 2, 3. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Are these all created? Oh, 5, 1, 4, 05. Huh. Oh, I said 5. Jesus, I'm thinking about 3 right here. All right, 5. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, all right, so we got the 5. So we want 10, then we'll just put 10, right? Okay, so now we have 10 trend lines on the chart. We don't have 1,000. All right, so let's just say we want the last 3, okay? All right, so let's just go real quick and then look to see what that enumeration is like. Why 3 works instead of 2. 3 is just a trend line. 2 is a trend line created by drawing object. But I did create it with drawing object. I don't know. All right, so just keep it simple and just use trend line. How about that? All right, so now the last thing that original poster was looking for was the get value, right? So if the price does happen, let's move this to 4. Because look at that nice downward trend right there, okay? So let's make that 4. All right, but I didn't capture anything there. Let's go with 5, see if we capture something on there. Well, that's fine. All right, so there's a nice one there, right? So for obvious reasons, we often want to know when the price breaches the trend line. So all you have to do is say, if the high crosses over TL, which is trend line, dot get value, parentheses, now what? Date time. Okay, so date time, you can do bar date time will get you what you're looking for. Oh, all you need to do then plot 2. We already used plot 1. We don't want to reuse plot 1. So plot 2 equals, we're going to plot the low, and then we're going to make it, we'll make it red. Okay, you see how it popped up? Red shows up every time that happens. All you need to do is double click on this, go to style, and then go to point. You can change it to whatever you want to. Point, cross. Now it's going to be too small because you can't see it. So go back to it. Customize. Now make it larger. Okay. All right. Why do we have reds popping up everywhere? I mean blues popping up everywhere. Okay, so here's our reds here. What is blue? Oh, the blue is might be this retrace. What is the blue? Oh, the blue is our plot 1 when we actually have a new condition being met. So we can just go ahead and kind of mute that out. All right, so now when price crosses over the trend line, it's going to give you a red dot. When price crosses over, it's going to give you a red dot. Price crosses over, it gives you a red dot. Price crosses over, it gives you a red dot. The one thing I want you to know about this is that you see these 5 trend lines right here, right? Well, the other ones are still there too, right? They're just not visible, right? And so this trend line, this price crossing over the trend line is still active, even back here where the trend lines are invisible. So the trend lines are invisible. Oh, did I catch one? So the trend lines are invisible. You can't see them, but they're there. And so when price crosses over it, it's giving you an indication. Now, I don't know how to turn that off. You know, it's in the past, so it might clutter up your chart analysis, but other than that, it doesn't bother me. So, all right. Well, that's all we're going to do for this. That's all we need to do. The last thing I'll do is make an input. We'll put number of trend lines to show. I wonder if we can make it that long. And we're just gonna put that here. Number of trend lines to show. Okay. And then also, like I said, for this, you need to be deleting the when you get trend lines over that, whatever that number is, you need to be deleting the bottom one, because the way they're put on the stack, they're put on, each trend line is put on the top of the stack. If you delete that 10th one, then you're deleting the newest one, so nothing else will show up. You have 10 trend lines at the front of your chart and then nothing at the end of the chart. So you need to delete. So the ones on the top are going to be your newest trend lines. You want to keep those. You want to delete the ones at the 0 index. Okay. All right. So we have number of trend lines to show. We have that as an input. So when we come over here, double click this. When we go to input, number of trend lines to show, instead of 0, let's show 3. Okay, so now when we come back to the chart, we'll only get 3 trend lines shown, right? And then when the price crosses over it, that when the high crosses over it, we'll get a indication. Okay, all right, so that's pretty much it. I got more stuff up my sleeve. I've got a couple more scripts that I want to work on and produce for you guys. If you do want this script, this ELD, which you can just download, then put a comment, put a note in the comments section, and let me know that you want this. But then head on over to Discord, and that's where I will be able to upload this ELD to the library, and that way you can download it. Or you can just copy and paste it. You can just write it all from here. It's probably much easier to get it from the Discord. Just download the thing, man. All right. Anyway, I'm Eric. I'm out. Peace.